in the Winona, Minnesota to live. We call our meetings to order with the public comment. Anybody in the audience or online can address the county board. You have 2 minutes. We ask you to state your name and address and tell us what's on your mind. So please step to the mic.
Hello, my name is Robert Wick, 25669 Clyce Drive, Rushford, Minnesota. Thank you for allowing me to speak about rifle use, elimination of shotgun zone in southeast Minnesota. My name is Robert Wick, and my wife and I live in Hart Township near the Fillmore County border. We both hope that Winona County will follow the Freeborn, Homestead, Dodge counties opting out of the elimination of the shotgun zone and side with safety in this regard. We feel that our house, land, property will be directly, negatively, and possibly dangerously impacted by the use of rifles during deer season here in Hill Country. We live not far from state land, which is overly populated with deer hunters, and we have bullets flying into our property in the past with shotgun use and believe that it will only get worse with the rifles. For the past 2 years, there were proposed bills in our state legislators to eliminate the shotgun zone in our area. And in both years, they were defeated due to safety concerns, especially here in Bluff Country. The same bill would have been defeated again this year, so the authors lumped it into the Environment Omnibus Bill and added the option for each county to add an ordinance limiting rifle use. Some counties are primarily flat ground, which some could argue is safe for rifle. But we are known as Bluff Country here in Winona County, different terrain, different considerations. Shotgun zone has been in existence for 83 years, and we have safely benefited from during that time. A shotgun is considered a short-range firearm, and a rifle is considered a long-range firearm. Sniper uses a rifle, not a shotgun. Modern-day 20-gauge shotgun, such as a Savage 2020, has an effective range out to 200 yards with a maximum total travel distance of 1,000 yards, whereas a 30-06 rifle has an effective range out to 300 to 500 yards, but a maximum travel distance of roughly 3.37 miles. In addition, if a hunter attempts a 500-yard shot with a 30-aught rifle, they'll aim 47 inches high, and if 10-mile-an-hour wind, they'd have to aim 18.5 inches against the wind. One study says that Army snipers would only be capable of hitting their silhouette target 50% of the time at 500 yards. Now, you consider it a common hunter and the hills that we live in, think about those bullets are potentially going. Rifles are not safe, period. Let's do the right thing here in Winona County and follow what has been done in the neighboring counties and side with safety.
All right.
And I have data to support everything I pretty much said.
Okay.
And I've made copies for everybody if they'd like copies.
Sure. If you can just give him the Chuck there and he can filter them around to the rest of us. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That always happens. Our podium is too small. Apologize.
They're my copies too, so. Well, if they want copies of everything, to document what I just said, just take one of it. Here you go. Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? Sure, Bob, come on up. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, those online and our guests this morning. Bob Bamanek, Winona County Recorder, 2024 Clinton, Winona, Minnesota. This morning, I'm here to bring greetings to the county commissioners and all others to attend the Winona County Fair. 167th annual begins on Wednesday at St. Charles. We have 5 outstanding parties that are having a day at the fair in recognition of their lifelong efforts. And new this year, we also have one business that's having a day at the fair. The recognition program is at 2 o'clock Thursday, and I sincerely invite everyone to attend that. It'll be in the tent at the fairgrounds. The fair is a special place in my heart and my family. I started helping at the fair when I was in junior high, and as of this year, I've missed 1 year. So I'm pretty proud of that, and I'd like to see all of you, and we'll keep this going. All right. Thank you, and thank you for attending the fair.
No,
Centuries.
Century Farm or Hunter and what's the word I'm looking for here?
This was.
Centennial.
No.
Thank you for asking the question.
Yeah,
We've
yeah, there
put a
we go.
lot of effort into it. We've had news announcements. I've talked to groups about it. And for recent years, we've had fewer that have not had a Century Farm than those that have had.
Yeah.
And we do not have a Century Farm this year. We do not have a Sesquicentennial Farm. A year ago, we did. We had a Sesquicentennial, and that was with the Speltz family. And they had their own celebration following the day at the fair, had a very, very big crowd on the farm. It was very well done. And I had spent a considerable amount of time with them, putting together the history, their family history. And interestingly enough, they weren't sure about their history. So it became a real learning experience for them as well as us.
I'm sure that there possibly could be 100-year farm, just maybe nobody applied or just. they're not aware.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for some of them, it's been the grandkids that brought it up and got mom and dad, or more often, grandpa and grandma involved. And if all they need to do is just give us a call or send us a note, we'll take a look at it for them. It's not a big time-consuming project. And most often, once we have the information together, the family knows and they can recognize it, so that it really brings back some memories. So we're there to partner on this, and we do want to recognize our Century Farms and our history. And what we're doing this year is I've got lists of all of the previous parties that have been recognized with Century Farm recognition. That'll be available, and anyone attending the program that has a Century Farm is going to be recognized.
Great.
See you on Thursday.
All right. Thank you very much.
Approaching a century, but not a century.
Yes, and I understand the board chair, Marcia, is going to be bringing a greeting from the county commissioners, and we're very pleased with that. And I'm speaking on behalf of the fair board, who asked me to extend this greeting this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. All right, is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? Step forward, please.
Hello, I'm Tasha Young-Ray. I'm from Congressman Brad Finstad's office. I had meant to be here a little bit earlier, but I got a little turned around on my way here. But I'm a district outreach representative for the congressman, and I just wanted to introduce myself since I started in December, so I'm a little bit newer. So I've been going to county board meetings on my part of the district, which would be the eastern portion. But I just wanted to introduce myself and give you a face and a card. So if you needed anything from our office, we're more than happy to help you out.
I got one that I've never got an answer to. How can I park cars underneath those two bridges right out the back door?
I will try to get you an answer on that one.
Work on it. Everybody says I can't, but they don't say why I can't.
I'll look into that.
Prime real estate. We
You're
need
right.
parking. And where are you based? But
I'm based out of the Rochester office.
Rochester. Okay, you can leave your cards there with Chuck. I
Okay.
appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. He's been hard to find lately, so thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? And last time, anyone else wishing to address the Winona County Board? Okay, seeing nobody, we'll move into item 3, approval of county board meeting minutes. We have 3.1, closed session, June 24th, 2025, 3.2, Board of Equalization and Appeal, June 24, 25, and then the county board meeting of June 24, 25.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Elzing, seconded by Commissioner Meyer to approve those meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, those are approved. Item 4, acknowledge receipt of approved committee meeting minutes. 4.1 is the Board of Adjustment from April 17th, 2025. And 4.2 is the Planning Commission of March 20, 2025.
Move to approve items 4.1 and 4.2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Vagley, second by Commissioner Olson to acknowledge the receipt of the approved committee meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Approved. Thank you. Item 5, consent comments and approval of the agenda. Commissioner Vagley?
Two items at the end of the meeting, please.
Okay. Commissioner Elsing?
A comment at the end.
Okay. Commissioner Olson?
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Meyer?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay. Administrator Holte?
Just a request to swap 7.1 and 7.2, please.
Right, we can reverse those. I understand the Southern Minnesota Initiative Fund is on their way. So we will reverse those because we do have the medical examiner people with us. And myself, I have a comment at the end.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes, Attorney Sonneman?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do have one comment.
Okay. All right, with that, we have an amended agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as it was amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Olson to approve the amended agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, approved. Ms. Holte, would you read that into the record, please?
Absolutely. 6.1, approval of LG 220 gambling application for exempt permits, Hidden Valley Fire and Rescue. 6.2, approve renewal for Regional Administrative Agency Cooperative Agreement Fraud Prevention Investigation Program. 6.3, approve interim use permit for Society of St. Pius X. 6.4, confirm payment of disbursements.
I'll move to approve the consent business as it was read.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Vagley to approve the consent business as read. Just a comment I want to make. We're talking about, and many people maybe don't know this, the fraud prevention. Now, this wasn't fraud. Well, it was fraud. Okay, so, and I've heard this happen at a couple other counties. Our most recent conditional use permit person who we approved last time for the cannabis growing operation. She called me hysterically like the following day or two later, and she said, I just got a bill for over $7,000 from the county. And I said, we don't send out bills. I mean, the conditional use permit, there's a flat fee. But she had a $7,000 bill and I never saw it. She just read it to me. It was very itemized, like research, verification. It had Ross Dunsmore's duties and things like that. And I said, oh, okay, where are you supposed to, pay this? Supposed to wire the money to somebody. So, and I've heard this happen also, a commissioner in Wabasha County said the same thing. So the message is, to the public is that the county doesn't ask anybody to wire money anywhere. And a conditional use permit is the flat fee unless there's some, major change or anything like that. But I was so glad that she called to, ask instead of just, sending off a wire. But we would never ask anybody to wire or credit cards or gift cards or any of those things. But it really had that applicant kind of shook up, which, rightfully it should. So there is fraud going on in even just that. But they look at our meeting minutes and they get, I don't know, they get names we talk about safety. Public safety. We give them names, addresses, location, pictures, absolutely everything they can, would want to cause havoc with a person. So I don't know how we protect that, but anyway, just so the whole board knows that. So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent business as read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, we are approved. Okay, moving into general business. We will go with 7.2. We're going to receive the Southern Minnesota Regional Medical Examiner's Office 2024 annual report. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for having me here today. I'm Dr. Ross Reichert. I'm the medical examiner for Winona County and the chief medical examiner for the Southern Minnesota Regional Medical Examiner's Office. And I have my colleague Monica Kindle here, who's in charge of our death investigators. So we can just kind of go through this. And so the pale blue counties are the ones that we provide the full medical examiner services for. And the sort of purple ones are the ones that we provide consult service for. So these are ones where we do the autopsies for. So we only the autopsies. So we have a whole region that we've covered, which is kind of nice to sort of get a sense of what's going on in the area. So if we go to the next slide, this is our team. And so we have 4 forensic pathologists now, and we're adding a 5th this fall, actually, in the end of August, which is great. And then we have our investigators here. And I would just really like to highlight our Winona County investigators because they're really the crew that keeps things going. They're the ones in the county 24/7, 365 responding to calls. I mean, they keep the wheels on the bus going and they start our investigations, they follow up. I just can't emphasize how important those frontline staff are. Then we have our investigators back at our main office in Rochester that, help sort of relay that information. But, that Winona investigators are excellent and can't say enough about how important they are for the whole system to work. So if we go on to the next slide, so this is just a brief reminder of what's on the death certificate. So obviously we have the cause and manner of death, but just as a reminder, there's lots of other public health information that's gathered there that's not on the death certificate that the family receives, but it is being gathered and it's important for public health information. And the families use this obviously for closure and all sorts of legal things, but also that information flows up to the state and then from the state to the federal level. And so this is when you see those numbers of whether the drug overdose rates, motor vehicle accidents, that's where it's coming from. And I mean, it's a lot like local government. It starts very grassroots with investigators seeing if there are drugs at a scene. And this is how it eventually connects all the way to the federal level. So if we move on to the next slide. And so this is really just a high level summary of the number of cases that we were involved in. We had 328 that were reported to us out of 365 deaths. And so in one shape or form or the other, we were involved and reviewed at least about 90% of the deaths within the county. And so these are like hospice deaths and cremation permits and other things that are brought to our attention. And so I think from my standpoint, we like that because it really means we have our eyes on how things are being managed and things aren't slipping through the cracks. We did 47 complete autopsies. We did 9 external examinations, and that's where, they have documented injuries or something and would fall in our jurisdiction. We just look at the body and determine, based on the medical record and such that and we're going to probably see more of these because as the population ages, what's ending up happening is you have individuals that are on hospice and they have a fall. And there's questions about whether or not that sort of expedited their passing. And so we end up bringing them in for an external and postmortem imaging. So they fall, they break their hip. We know that contributed to the death and where we document that. They may not have gotten that evaluation because they're on hospice. And so then that would affect the manner of death. So
Does the immediate family have any say, no, we don't want this done? This invasive procedure in my.
Well, that's not invasive on that for the external examination. And most of the time they want that because it helps, changing the manner of death can have all sorts of implications for insurance. And obviously if they're in care facilities, there's big consequences. So if whether we say there isn't an injury that contributed, that could be really important, particularly for the care institution.
But can the family say no? I mean, again,
They can object.
Object?
Yes, so there is object that went into statute a number of years ago. But basically the family can object and we work with the families to do whatever we can to sort of meet them where they are. If they're, if they need the body back on the same day, we'll expedite the autopsy. If we can do postmortem imaging, that would, basically help support what we need to do. So we work with them. If there's a compelling state interest, then we have to get into discussion about whether or not we'll work with the county attorney and have this discussion of like, okay, this is a compelling state interest. We're going to do this autopsy. So just to use an example that you can go look up. I mean, you can't like poison your wife and then say, I refuse to have an autopsy and I want a direct cremation. So that's the roadblock that we are intentionally setting out
I
there.
think I've seen that on a Law and Order though.
Yeah.
Episode.
Yes, in other places too. But yeah, but we work with the families, so that's typically not an issue. The bigger issue for us is if they say we don't want an autopsy and we say we're going to sign this out as heart disease, we will have them sign a form that says you didn't want this autopsy. So you can't come back to me in a week and say, well, what can you do now? The body's buried or what have you. That's actually a bigger issue is people in the moment obviously are upset and under stress and then subsequently say, oh, you know what, it actually would have been good to know what happened to mom or what have you. So, but we work with all of them on a one-on-one basis, really.
Well, there's so many more religious affiliations and they have their rules and their practices. And then there's so many more different ways. It's not just, casket and burial. There's, cremation and all these other green burials and all this other stuff.
Yes, it's definitely evolved. I mean, cremations are way, way up, and that started with like the Great Recession. That's when the cremation started going up. Then culturally across the United States, there was more acceptance of cremation versus burial. And then with the pandemic, it continued to go up. So,
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah. So we had 245 deaths that we released back to the primary care to sign the death certificate. And so just to sort of give you a sense, so we'd much rather have someone call in and report a death to us and we do a review and say, hey, this doesn't fall under our jurisdiction. Thanks for letting us know. You can sign the death certificate. So if we go to the next page by manner of death. And so again, what you really like to see is that large natural column, which reflects people dying of their natural disease, typically as they're older. We had 2 undetermined deaths, so we can talk about a little bit later. 42 accidents and 9 suicides and no homicides. And so we'll go into each of those categories in more detail. So on the next page is deaths by unnatural causes. And so we've taken the manner of deaths is the circumstances surrounding a death. The cause of death, again, is the underlying reason why they died. So we had 4 asphyxia deaths. We had 1 burn, no drownings, 4 firearms, 18 falls/jumps. That's really sort of the public health terminology. We'll go into the details of those in a minute. We had 8 motor vehicle accidents, and we had 16 poisonings or drug overdoses. And so we'll dig into that a little bit more, but I wanted to point out that of those 16, 12 of those were accidents. 2 of them were suicides, and 2 of them we couldn't determine if it was accidental or suicide. So the number is going to look kind of big there. I mean, it's still an uptick but we can talk about that when we get to the drug composition portion of the presentation. So the next is suicide by means. We had 1 asphyxia deaths. We had 4 firearms, 1 hanging, and 2 drug overdoses, and 1 sharp force injury or cuts. And so, suicide is usually the individual uses what means is available to them. So the next is suicide by age. And so there is, compared to some of our other counties, a little bit of a broader range with 2 in the 18 to 25, 3 in the 26 to 44, and 4 in the older group. So it's a little bit broader age range than some of our other counties. And actually, I was going to ask this later, but maybe you all know this, and it's probably something that we should look up. Something that as we look at like the age of suicides and drug overdoses, I wonder do you all know like the average age or the age ranges of the population of Winona County? So that's one of the things I've been thinking about, whether or not we have some of these younger groups, is that's a reflection of the population of Winona being younger than some of the other populations of our county. So that's something I think we're going to look into.
They always tell us we're an aged society.
I think there's a bulge on older people.
Well, we'll exclude Marcia, so.
Yeah.
Then,
I'm really old.
But there's a bulge college-age kids because of the university.
That's kind of what I was thinking. And I wonder if that's kind of what has skewed that. So you sort of have that college age, and then you have maybe people that are here for a couple of years after college or what have you. So I just didn't know if you happen to know that offhand, but
But it's not just the college range that I think distorts maybe those two bulges in the demographic map. I'm part of a Southeast Minnesota regional coalition dealing with youth mental health, suicide, and drug addiction. And is it correct if I'm recalling, is this accurate that suicide is now the second leading cause of death for like kids aged 10 to 17? And then 17 to 24, I think it's either second or third. So it's only behind accidents and it's higher than cancer. Is that sound roughly?
That
correct?
does sound probably roughly correct. Yeah.
Most people don't realize this is the second leading cause of death. This is a serious issue and it's not just because we have a lot of college students. So
Yeah.
it's like ages 10 to 17. And as a
Yeah.
teacher, I'm a high school teacher. The second half of my career, it'll be 30 years this fall, has been very different from the first half in terms of mental health, depression, anxiety, and suicide attempts. The number of funerals I've gone to for suicide has almost all happened in the second half of my career. But so I didn't want people to think it's just because of Winona State. It's a nationwide problem.
Right. No, it's definitely an issue.
That's a public health issue, not so much a medical examiners. I just wanted to double check to make sure I had the
Yeah.
information right.
So if we go on to the next page, which is the suicide rate per capita, there was 10, then, so this data is if the injury occurred in the county. So on the previous ones, it's if the injury and the death occurred in the county, and this is if the injury occurred. So one of them was transported. So this is why there's 10 deaths here. It's per capita. So it's, by 100,000. So if you move it by a couple individuals, it can really sway those bar graphs dramatically.
Could you, what's the red line? I saw
Oh,
that.
that's the state.
That's a state average.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is just completed suicides, not suicide attempts.
Correct. Yeah, there's a huge number. It's staggering. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but the number of suicide attempts per completion it's staggering, actually.
Roughly, in terms of teenagers, 1 in 9, 1 in 10 teenagers will have attempted suicide during their teenage years, et cetera. Attempted, not just thought of, but attempted.
Yeah, it's a huge number. When I talk to my emergency physician colleagues, I mean, this is something that they see every single day in the emergency room, which is just, heartbreaking, really. Okay, so the next page is homicides. We like to keep that clean. None this year, thankfully. This is the next one is the homicide rate per capita. So again, pretty low rates in this region, which is good. So now let's move on to the next page, which is the accidental deaths by type. So we had 3 asphyxias. One was an accidental carbon monoxide, a tractor accident, and a choking death. The burn was an accidental electrocution. The falls, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail in a minute, these are typically older individuals that have other medical conditions, and we'll show you where those occurred. 8 motor vehicle accidents, and then these were the 12 overdose deaths that were accidental. So it was 16 before, because that included the suicide and the undetermined ones.
How do you know that they accidentally died from poison or drugs?
That's really based on our investigation, and so, some people have made the argument that if you're willing to, take these potent drugs, maybe there is like some sort of suicidal ideation every time because it's kind of a gamble. But we look for someone who is intentionally trying to take their own life. And so we'll have other indications, like whether it's a suicide note or text message, previous attempts, maybe they have hesitation or cut marks or other sorts of things that would indicate that it was intentional versus just.
They got 20 bottle pills sitting on their kitchen counter. That's not considered accidental.
And if they're all empty.
They're all empty.
Yeah. So if you have 20 pill bottles and they're all empty, that we're worried about that being a suicide. If you were supposed to have 100 of your oxycodone left and you have 10 left, maybe you're taking more than you should and combined it with alcohol or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where our investigators are really critical. That's helping us make that determination. So the next page is by vehicle crashes. So we had 3 auto and SUVs. We had 3 motorcycles. And then we had 1 pedestrian and 1 ATV accident. The next one is a map of basically where the deaths occurred year over year. Again, there's, from our standpoint, and the size reflects the number in that region. We have a blow up of one of the areas that looks a little more concerning, but there's really nothing from our standpoint that's sticking out as like a particular intersection. So if you go to the next page, this is by the type of vehicle. And so this is a reflection, actually, of what's available and what people are doing in the county. You know, if you have people that are, you know, there's bike trails, there's snowmobile trails, there's other sorts of ATV trails, motocross, that's really affecting this, whereas other counties have less of that. And so that's why you see a mix, because that's just a reflection of what people are doing and are available. The next one is basically a blow up of that area where those dots were sort of on top of each other. And when you zoom in, you can see that these are all in different locations. And so again, you know, this is something you all can obviously dig deeper into with law enforcement if you're interested. So the next is the motor vehicle fatality rate per capita. And so there were 9 injuries that occurred in the county. We had 8 deaths. This is kind of confusing, to be honest with you. So there's a number of injuries that occurred in the county and they were transported and died outside of the county. And then you also had some deaths that they injured here and they died much longer down the road. And so 9's a rough number, but it's yeah.
Remind me again, I think I asked this question. If they're transported outside of the county, are they counted on here?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's
where
where
they reside, correct? If they reside here, whether they take them to St. Mary's or
Correct.
Winona or La Crosse.
it's where the
still
injury
needs counted.
occurred. Yes. Yeah. So that's what these are. The other ones are if the death occurred in the county.
So you say motor vehicle. One of my big concerns lately is all these motorized bicycles. Is that's not a motorized vehicle? That's still considered a bicycle?
They're a challenge. Now, we would consider them we would put them in a motorized vehicle. So we have like scooter categories and all of those types of things. So
Okay. Well, it seems like they have a great disrespect for the rules of the road, and I'm afraid there's going to be a future accident.
I'm laughing because I just about got killed by one the other day. A Jimmy John's driver on a sidewalk going about 20 miles an hour. Just like, seriously.
Yeah. Or they just ride out in traffic without acknowledging.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to see them. When you're in the car, you're supposed to know they're coming at you.
Isn't their business slogan "Freaky Fast" or something?
Something like that. I probably should not have used a brand name. I apologize.
Good.
I apologize. I should not use a name.
Not the way you want to go, though.
Yeah.
Slow down.
No, do not want to go. It'd be freaky fast way to go though. Okay, anyhow, next one. So accidental.
Back to, you would track.
Yes,
So if we see something happening in that type of category, we could.
yes,
Yeah.
we would. Yes, we try to have that kind of granularity, which is why you see all these different categories there. And we're, because we have people that are on scooters, we
Yeah.
have people that are on their own motorized scooters, you know, because they're handicapped. So we're capturing all of those.
Okay.
So.
Good.
The next one is accidental deaths or falls by age group. And so again, as you might imagine, this is typically in older individuals. And so just note that we, you know, it used to just be greater than 65. Now we're at 95 plus, you know, and so we just kind of keep shifting the bar graph to the right of the population ages, which is good. So, yeah. And so on the next page, and so this is by location. And so, you know, this is just something that's come up because people have sort of been, you know, asking that question. We had this one in other locations that was a fall in a parking lot. We didn't have anything in other residents. We did have 7 in the decedent's residence, so at their own home, 11 in assisted living, 2 in a care facility, and none in a hospital. And so just to sort of get a sense of where they're going on. I mean, obviously, care facilities and hospitals falls as a huge issue. It's a challenge. It's just sort of a continual challenge. So, and now we know oftentimes, I mean, there's a lot of video in these facilities. And so we actually have video taped examples of where they fell. And so it's kind of interesting. Even in some people's residence, like the kids have put up basically the baby camera kind of things to watch grandma or mom remotely. So, anyhow, so the next one is drugs related to poisonings or death. And so these are the ones that occurred in the county. So we had 9 with illegal drugs, 2 mixed, 4 prescription medications, and that's the 2 that were suicides and 2 that were undetermined. We couldn't tell if that was accidental or suicidal. If we go to the next page, and so the age range is really in that 26 all the way up to the 75 to 84-year-old category, actually. So this is a shift that's younger than what we are seeing in other counties. Most of our drug deaths in the other counties are more in that 45 to 64 age. And when we dig into those, these are typically like chronic drug users that have a history of, like 10 plus years of drug use. And those have often been fentanyl related ones where they've, moved, like gotten fentanyl in instead of their heroin or other opioids. So we go with overdose rate per capita. And what this includes all of them, because this is by cause of death, not manner of death. So that's why it's 16 and not 12. And so you can see that even at that, the Winona's a little bit higher, and we can sort of we'll talk through that. Sorry, we would go to the next slide. I should have said. Yeah, so there's the per capita rate. So those are all of the cause of deaths that were due to drug overdoses. So that includes the suicides, for example. So the next page is really an interesting page. And so last year, so the numbers are definitely up in Winona from last year, or from 2 years ago to last year. And there's 8 fentanyl deaths or fentanyl related deaths. And so, which is different than some of the other counties where we have seen a decrease in fentanyl. I'm saying last year intentionally because this year is like, I don't know what's changed this year, but like, we had 5 overdoses in a week in Rochester. We had 3 that died at one scene.
Wow.
So what they're taking is drugs that are so potent that no one can give Narcan, call 911. They're just out like before they can even metabolize it in one sort of cycle through their body. So I don't know what the numbers are going to look like. We were optimistic that after last year's numbers, things were on the way down, but this year's, we'll see what it holds, but it's up. But you definitely still had fentanyl deaths here. For 11 drug overdoses, it's often mixed with others. And meth is still kind of in the background. So
That is surprising because despite the availability, I think the awareness of Narcan is simply more available and more people know how to use it. So that's surprising that that's still happening.
well, so their tolerance that some of these individuals have, just to give you, they'll find them unresponsive. 1 bolus, 2, 3, get them to the hospital. They have to put them sometimes on Narcan drips in the hospital for a day, 2 days so if they turn off the Narcan drip, because it's very short acting, then they basically go into respiratory depression again. So it's just the tolerance and the concentration of the fentanyl and various forms of fentanyl out there is just astronomically high. So.
Yeah, the drug makers have figured out how to override the negative things. I mean, they're stronger, right, than they are.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And the drug users often are seeking that out. So, but yeah,
Better chemists than the medical, unfortunately.
yeah, there's websites out there with very detailed ways of how to make it, how to use it, effects, et cetera. Okay, so moving on to deaths by natural causes on the next page. So heart disease, cancer are the leading causes of death. That's consistent across the country. Neurologic deaths is close behind, and we'll probably see steady increase of that as the population ages. There are 8 liver deaths, and really there's one where the alcoholism was related to heart disease. So there's really a total of 9 deaths related to chronic alcoholism. This is something that we've been sort of keeping an eye on because it's been sort of a late effect of the pandemic where people increased alcohol consumption. And so you're seeing liver deaths that are occurring years afterwards because it just takes that sort of time for the liver damage to accumulate. Let's see. The next page is deaths by age group. And so this is just a good way to see, in a very quick snapshot, to see what's going on in a community. The further it's shifted to the older population, the more likely they're dying of their natural diseases. When you see more and more blips in the younger categories, that means they're not dying of natural diseases. They're dying of accidents, suicides, and homicides. So again, we're seeing the vast majority in the older population, but as we've talked about, we do have some younger individuals dying of non-natural causes. So. And then the last page is just our medical examiner activities year over year. And it's been relatively stable with 262 investigations last year. Signed 83 death certificates, went to 90 scenes, 57 postmortem examinations, and we had 328 deaths reported to us. So relatively stable year over year. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. A lot of information.
Thank you for coming. This is very somber and it's a serious topic, even though I shouldn't have made a joke about Freaky Fast. But I'm very grateful that you come every year. This is very important information. And thank you for the work that you do and you and your staff do every day. Thank you for that.
No, really appreciate it.
I have a question. How does one become a medical death investigator? Are they medical? Are they doctors? I mean,
No, they're not doctors, but so we have like a whole onboarding program. And so most of the people who become death investigators have some sort of medical background. I mean, a lot of people think it's going to be like, oh, someone who's law enforcement, which people are sometimes, but most of what we deal with are natural deaths. And so our perspective on a scene is like, what's their medical history? What are their prescriptions? What's their family history? And so a lot of our investigators are, EMTs or nurses or, we have an internship, and some of our interns become death investigators. So that's kind of a way that we've kind of recruited people into the field.
Well,
So-
I guess I'm surprised we have 6 in Winona County by your org
Yep.
chart and such.
Yeah, I mean, and so
lot.
it is a lot, but I mean, you're covering the whole, 24/7, 365.
I mean, they have other.
They have other jobs,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a part-time.
It's a part-time job, and we try to find creative ways to give them other work to do if possible. So we have a Office of Decedent Affairs, which reports to the deaths at the hospital. And so we sometimes they'll drive in and, help with that service and such. And so we've really worked hard, and Monica and her team have done an amazing job because, we have 35 or so death investigators, but the volume of people that we have that have had training and experience is even more than that. Heaven forbid if we had sort of a mass casualty or something, we have a cohort of people who are experienced, trained, interested, and engaged that could help us. So I think that kind of, is reassuring to someone like me who worries about these things, that we have those sort of people out there that are knowledgeable and, they love the job. There's no way you do this job unless you want to do it. Being called out to side of a highway at 2:00 in February, it's
Yeah, I don't know. It's a job that, it's on everybody's.
it's not for everybody, but, and
Important though.
it is important, and we provide educational opportunities for them. So we get them trained. We have a conference every year, our Forensic Science Symposium, that we get them to attend. Some of them will attend a conference up in the cities. Once they've had enough, experience with going to scenes, we send them to school in St. Louis to get trained. So yeah, we're sort of, you are not paying a lot of money, but we try to provide experience and education and other sort of meaningful things to make it an enriching, job.
Madam
And
Chair,
yes.
I just wanted to,
Roxanne.
as I say every year, but I do mean it every year, working with Dr. Reichert and his staff. Because we do, yes, have deaths that our office has to either prosecute or investigate, and the sheriff's office as well. And his staff and himself and his team are great to work with, and get a hold of them and they get a hold of us. So I just want to thank you on behalf of the law enforcement community and my office too.
Really appreciate that.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll see you next year.
Thank you.
Hopefully none of us are your statistics.
Hopefully not.
We'll all be here.
Always good to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let's see. I saw another person come in. Are you from Southern Minnesota Initiative Fund? Okay, we're gonna have you up next.
Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thank you for letting us know you were running late.
Yeah.
We know we live on the edge of the world and it takes a while to get here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for your understanding. Whoops, here we go.
Not a problem.
All right. I'm just going to pass around this folder here. Contains a lot of the information that I'm going to go over. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Aaron. I'm the philanthropy director with Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. I'm just here today to give you a brief overview of the work that we've been committed to here in Winona County. So thank you again. Starting out, Southern Minnesota Initiative, for those of you who might not be as familiar, is a donor-supported foundation, invests for economic growth in our 20 counties of South Central and Southeastern Minnesota. This includes 175 communities and 1 native nation. The foundation's key interests include entrepreneurship, early childhood development, and community vitality. So far, SMIF has invested over $170 million in the region since 1986. I'm just going to go briefly through each of our categories to give you an idea of the most recent work and what we offer. Our goal here for entrepreneurship is in our region to make sure that entrepreneurs have the resources needed to thrive. We do this first and foremost through lending. We are a gap lender and we work in partnership with other organizations to meet entrepreneurs' needs. We can help those just starting out all the way up to equity investments. One of the great benefits of partnering with SMIF on a loan package is that even if we are a small part, we can provide one-on-one technical assistance that is tailored to that individual. We also have a program called the Prosperity Initiative. This just serves traditional entrepreneurs from backgrounds that might have some extra hurdles to overcome. Racial or ethnic minority groups, LGBTQIA+, people who identify as women, veterans, persons with disabilities, and so on. We provide 12 months of one-on-one coaching tailored to that individual. Another program I want to mention is REV, Rural Entrepreneurial Ventures program where we come into the community against the traditional model, which brings people from outside of the community in to bolster entrepreneurship. We come into the community and look at who is here and what needs they can meet. Moving on to early childhood, our goal here is to make sure all children are ready to learn by age 3. It is statistically shown that if they aren't, it is very difficult to catch up. So we want everyone to have a chance to be successful members of our communities. Also, we are in the middle of a nationwide childcare shortage, as I'm sure all of you know, meaning that not all of our kids have a safe place to go or a place with quality care to go. Also, this means that parents, unfortunately, need to leave the workforce. So we are tackling this by supporting current providers. We provide free develop-approved trainings, both virtually and in person. We aim to be as accessible as we can be in everything that we do. Develop-approved means that they receive their needed continuing education credits by attending. And so we serve around 1,000 annually this way. And in just a moment, I'll just give you the numbers on that. Last, right here, we have a consultant who will come into the community and work with those who want to examine their shortage needs and develop a plan. This is free of charge and can be accessed on our website. Of course, I would be happy to connect you. And finally, we provide grants in this area as well. Currently, for example, our early care and education grant is open, which is to support children with social, emotional support, mental and physical support as well. Many times this translates into additional trainings for providers and professionals. And so we give out around 30,000 books a year also, and this is for children to keep and create their own libraries. And lastly, our community vitality focus. This is focused on our smaller communities, typically with populations under 10,000. We have, for example, the Small Town Grant program, which is focused on collaboration and belonging. Also Paint the Town, promoting community beautification, volunteerism, and engagement. We provide the paint and the community comes together for murals, historical structures, and public art, beautifying those things. And finally, our affiliate fund program, under which we have 147 funds. We are their 501c3 fiscal hosts. Of those funds, 34 are community foundations. We just feel that community foundations are essential elements for keeping small towns vibrant. We do this all, we do all the administrative back office works, tax and legal work, which allows the community foundations to focus on the mission at hand and raising support.
And I would be happy to connect you with my colleagues for more information on that. I just wanted to give you a quick breakdown of the most recent work here. So in Winona County, you guys have been supporters of our endowment fund for years now, and we thank you so much. And we just want you to know that those dollars come back into the community at a ratio of around 12-1. So for every dollar that's donated to Smith, $12 are being leveraged back here into this county in amazing ways. I want to just go over so far to date, 43 loans have been issued to support entrepreneurs, 399 grants to support community projects, and $9.1 million has been invested by Smith in Winona County, again, through grants, loans, and our programming. Yes, sir.
Quick question.
Yeah.
You said for every 112 comes back, but we're looking up on the screen.
Sorry, 21.
Okay.
Thank you.
Much better.
I'm so glad you said something. I got those numbers backwards. Thank you so much.
Much better ROI.
Much better. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Just some recent work I'm going to go over here, and I will be brief, and I really just thank you for your time. In the last 3 years, in our early childhood support, in terms of grants, a total of $48,000 has come back into the community. Our most recent work in this area, for example, WAPS ECFE was awarded 200 English books to our early care and education grant. Also, Cardinal Foundation in Lewiston awarded 180 books and 30 Spanish books. That was again this year. And St. Charles Early Learning Program awarded 200 English and 25 Spanish books. The grants go on and on. Tons of work going on here. But yes, $48,000 has been leveraged back into the community in the last 3 years. Regarding our early care training programs and also our technical assistance for childcare providers, a total of $10,000 has been leveraged back into the community. In the last few years of our annual trainings, which are open region-wide at no cost to those in our region, Winona County had 59 attendees in 2023, 92 attendees in 2024, which is just incredible. So we hope that impact is being felt. Moving on to our grants in our entrepreneur support, a total of $115,000 has been leveraged back here into the community just in the last 3 years as well. Engage Winona received the IEC grant, which is Inclusive Equitable Communities Grant. And so that was $16,000 there. The Country Corn Crib Promise Act grant in Utica. So just great things going on there. Regarding some of our loans, it looks like there isn't a whole lot of news information there, but moving down to our community support grants, for example, we awarded 6 gallons of paint for Rolling Stone, City of Rolling Stone, and that was a $240 value. And just the grants continue in Rochester all throughout the county. And so a total of $438,960 has been leveraged into the community through our community vitality and entrepreneur grants. So in total, in the last 3 years, around $1,319,461 has been leveraged here back into Winona County.
Provide us that list you're reading off.
You bet. Yes, I can. I will email it to you if that's.
Yeah, that would be great. I think commissioners and maybe our EDA needs to look at some of those things. That would be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will get that to you. Definitely.
Thank you.
So I want to just say one last thing here. I want to make you aware of upcoming opportunities here. Got it right here. Oops. So for some of our grants, and I'll include this in the email as well, our early care and education grant opens this fall, funds early care and education services for children ages birth through 5. Our economic development grant opens this fall as well, supports initiatives making communities more prosperous. Small Town Grant opens actually July this month. And Taylor Rural Improvement Grant will be opening this fall as well. But I will have that information for you. The last thing I want to say, of course, is you guys have supported the foundation at the $6,000 level. We are asking, if possible, if you could do a 5% increase to bring that up to $6,300 for the fiscal year 2026, which is what we are now in. But of course, thank you so much for your support and for all you guys do. It really is a lot. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And did you either have a party or a party's coming up for retiring Tim Kenny?
So Tim actually retired already. His retirement party was about 2 months ago
Okay,
now.
never ringing the
So
bell.
yeah,
So he's all retired.
he is. He's
Okay.
still very much an ambassador of the foundation, and Benya, his predecessor, is now in her third week as CEO and president, which she's just fantastic. For those of you who haven't met Benya, we can't wait for you to meet her. She's incredible. But yes, Tim is still very much involved as well. So
Well, thank you very much for making the trek over and providing us the
thank you.
information. Look forward to that list. that
Thank you
meeting.
so much. I will get that to you today.
Okay,
So,
all right.
thank
And
you.
who's, let's see, is Ross, are you EDA? Yeah, so if we could include Ross
Sure.
Dunmore.
Yeah.
I think it would be valuable
Perfect.
resource.
I'll
Okay?
do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Then moving to 7.3, acknowledge completion of county administrator's performance review and approve compensation. That's page 92. How do we want to proceed?
Madam Chair, to open the
Yep.
conversation, I will move to acknowledge the performance review and accept the proposed salary for the county administrator.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the performance review and I guess what, accept the compensation?
Yep.
Package?
Yep.
Okay, any discussion? Commissioner Elsing.
I stated earlier that, I think some common ground was necessary on this. I'll say it again, I've said it many times that this has nothing to do with anybody personally. It's not that, our administrator isn't doing a good job. It's just one of the things that I've always stressed is compensation on a yearly basis, having been on both sides of the coin, being an employer and having been an employee for many years. The biggest thing is cost of living adjustments and, competitive wages outside of an area. And are they true comparisons, or is it just a laddered effect of, well, if you do it, then I get to do it and the next person doesn't? Is it truly a reflection of what any particular position should pay? The biggest thing that I have is when we factor everything in, and I think one of them is just a cost of living increase. It's a tough pill for me to swallow to give somebody that makes $200,000 a 3% increase versus somebody that's only making $50,000 the same 3%, because the loaf of bread, the gallon of gas, the taxes that they pay, et cetera, et cetera. Taxes arguably are going to change a little bit, obviously, but the basic commodities to adjust what cost of living increases are supposed to be, for the most part. Now, if you decide to buy a Gucci purse versus a Kmart purse, that's up to you what you do with your money, but I don't want to pay for it, So to me, I think we've got to find some common ground on this. Otherwise, we're going to see a drastic escalation of wages. Being in the public sector, there's no doubt that efficiency, and Commissioner Ward has talked a lot about pay for performance, which I think would be a phenomenal thing that we should put into place at some point, even though I voted with the current raises just because I believe that, they've been reasonable. But at the same time, I just don't want this thing to escalate out of control. That's the biggest thing. And that's what happens when we start comparing ourselves to other people. But if let's take it to a grander scale. What's the average US senator make? 197,000. What's the president make? 400,000. We're at levels at just local administrative leadership at some pretty high dollars here that we would see some pretty phenomenal companies paying their CEOs these types of salaries. So, It's nothing against anybody. It's just the concept as a whole is, are we actually paying people the fair market value of what they're worth at every level and every position throughout the county? Or is it just a laddered effect that we look across the border and say, well, there, get it, I deserve it too. And that's where we need to be careful, because when you have to go out and earn the money to pay versus go out and say, hey, I'm just going to tax you more. I'm going to take it from you to compensate for something. There are two different ways, because we as business people, we as community members have to figure out how to come up with a new money to continue to pay for these services. There is no, I can just take it from you because I deserve it, because the guy next door is getting paid the same. So to me, I think we need good people. There's no doubt that our current administrator is doing a good job. This isn't subject to just this. This is a broad discussion. And unfortunately, sometimes the unions get their way. But I think there's a better way to be evaluating rather than just comparing to what other counties may potentially pay, because that's just a ladder game. And it's a very, very quick way to rise to the top. So that's just my thoughts. So I'd like to see a little more fair common ground, and maybe even some different comparisons, if we're going to go down that route to, especially considering we're not a growing county, we're a stagnant county. So just my thoughts.
Anybody else have?
Yeah, sure.
Commissioner Meyer?
I've been thinking about this since we met last for the conversation, and there's a few points that I wanted to make. So I don't know if it was clear, because it wasn't 100% clear to me, but I had a second conversation with Administrator Holte. Last year, so I'm in my 7th year as a commissioner. Every year I hear some complaints from some commissioners about the comparisons. It's my understanding that we had to get a whole lot of people to agree to the comparisons, including the unions, which is what makes it so difficult for us to just do something different. So it is what it is, and this is the thing that we have been doing and do for all of the elected department heads. So last year, Administrator Holte got a 2% increase. She did not get the average. If she had gotten the average, and if she had gotten the extra 1% that we gave everyone else, she would be making $200,569 this year rather than $183, right? So that's a $14,600 difference that we saved in the 2025 budget. If that was true, the raise that she'd be getting this year would really be only $7,440. So I know that it looks like a big leap, but that is because we did not give the raise last year. And so in my mind, she is well due what she did not get, and she's not even asking for a retroactive raise. The second thing is that if we add up the FTEs for vacant positions in 2024, it's 2 full-time people that are dual jobs that our administrator did in addition to doing her job, which again, her performance was above average, and she was managing to do multiple people's jobs. So in my mind, having sort of thought through those extra factors, I am completely supportive of the increase.
Commissioner Elsing?
I don't disagree with what's happening. That I agree that you've done a lot of work and you signed on for that knowing that it was going to be there, right, at a current base salary. The issue with that particular side is that it sets the precedent that soon will be forgotten. And it creates the bar that other counties will say, without knowing that information, that's the laddered effect. All of a sudden, Winona County did it. They might not know why we did it, which leads back to Commissioner Ward's theory of pay for performance. You have a base salary, but if you're willing to take on additional things, and we know that, hey, you're saving the county money, that's where the reward system comes in. And when that no longer exists, it drops back down to a reasonable salary where what pays for the position. In this context, when we start filling those voids, what happens is we incur that cost, plus we incurred the cost of, hey, thank you for doing this temporarily until we fill the voids. It ends up double negative in a small amount of time. And then retroactively, nobody goes back and says, well, the reason it was raised because of this performance. So it sets a new bar, not only for our county, but again, it continues the ladder effect all the way through. So it's another case of, I mean, I don't know how many people own businesses, but I write payroll checks, right? Well, my secretary does, I sign them. Well, it's not even sign them anymore. I guess it's all automated, but I get to see them, right? And, you know, and you've got to justify every single dollar and where it comes from. And, you know, we do bonuses. It's why we do what we do, because there has to be a reasonable compensation for that person to live based on their experience. But when they go above and beyond, hey, we want to reward them. And so, again, I'm being very cautious here that we're just not artificially raising the bar for a temporary amount of work that we're going to backfill. But now we have, as constituents of the county, we have to continue to pay for this new bar. And not only that, but what it does to the subsequent counties that are watching what we're doing without the information. So I can appreciate all the work. I really can. It's just, we got to be careful how we layer this into our labor force. And that, and it does go back to Commissioner Ward's theory.
Commissioner Bagley.
I'm going to vote in favor of Commissioner Meyer's motion. This is a large pay raise, and for someone who outside of the county board is part of a union, I am very skeptical or about large raises for administrators. In this case, I think it's justified. Not only has Ms. Holte done her work, she's done the work with others. And I want to also add, so has almost every, I think, county staff member in this room. Because we're not just down a few people that Ms. Holte covers for. Ross, Eric, Aaron, all these people cover for multiple people. So I want to thank each and every staff member who's had to cover, because we have very large holes in the county in terms of important positions, all the way from entry-level positions up to department heads. We're not, this is a big jump, but we're not going to be above the average. This is to get it to the average. And looking at today's labor market, it is, we're experiencing this with every position that we try to hire for. There aren't a lot of applicants, and we need for not only to recognize the work that this administrator has done, but thinking in terms of succession planning and transition planning. I don't want Ms. Holte to retire, but at some point she will retire, because we're going to need to provide a competitive package to attract high-level people. We already have that problem because we're not Rochester, we're not the Twin Cities, et cetera. So I'm going to vote in favor of the motion, and I want to thank Ms. Holte for the work that she's done to cover other positions. And I want to thank every staff member. I think Ross is doing 12 jobs right now. I've lost track of how many jobs that he's doing, et cetera.
Sure, it's not 13.
13, 14, et cetera. So all the work that a lot of people have done to cover all these, the many missing positions in the county. So thank you.
Yeah, like I said, there's no doubt, and thank you. And we all know that in any position, we're gonna have to step up for a while and step back down until something's, and I think that's just part of it. In any job, in any location. So my wife is currently going through that. We're the administrator, she's an administrator, but under the administrator. So they've all pitched in and they've taken over and guess what? Her salary didn't change, but she gets paid a bonus. Because they know at some point they're gonna refill it and then it goes back down. It's just so common in industry. So we can't just artificially start raising salaries because, and as appreciative as we are, it needs to fall more into that sort of category. Because again, we don't realize that later on when we refill and say, okay, could we decrease your salary now? Because you're not doing as much work. That's the problem. And so it creates this laddered effect. So there's no doubt what everybody's doing is we're very thankful to get us through. Everybody signed on to the job knowing that those things had to happen. So just as a steward of the taxpayer dollar, I've got to at least plead a case to say, hey, thank you for everything you're doing. But at the same time, we've got to be careful that we don't let this spiral out of control.
Okay.
So I'd like, one last thing, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So I'd just like to find common ground. I'd like to find someplace in between that says, hey, justifiably, you do deserve this. But once again, I've always had a problem with this cost of living situation because that gallon of gas costs the same whether I make 50 grand, 200 grand. To me, it should be a flat fee, not based on what you get paid.
There is, in my opinion, there's no question, Ms. Holte has stepped up and she's done a marvelous job. But again, this is a public service career path that kind of the outcome, you kind of know the pay scale, you kind of know, a lot of things. I am very encouraged, though. I did get a note from Ms. Holte saying, I will be sending a draft pay for performance plan for the next pay review period. Thank you. I don't like the system. I've never liked the system. Commissioner Meyer says, well, we've always used this. Well, that's got to be over 20 years. And if I did business the same way I did 20 years ago, I would not be sitting here with this piece of technology. I wouldn't be sitting here with a cell phone. I wouldn't be doing a lot of things in my personal life different. So 20 years to me is long enough. And I carry this sheet, and I need to update my sheet. We use these counties for comparison. And this was back in 2020. So I know somebody's got a newer sheet, but it's been in my book. So just for comparison, total market value of real and personal property. And Winona County was $4,730,000. The closest one on that list is Rice County. They're 663. Otter Tail is 98. Blue Earth is 81. Goodhue is 7.2. Sherburne is 8.7. Clay is 6.5. And Itasca is 5.4. So I'm sorry, 5.4 would be the closest one. I mean, they're different counties. I don't know where, and again, it was something that the union, yes, and why we can't change our union mentality to change some. My question is, who uses Winona County as a sample? Why are we always comparing ourselves to these other counties? They have different budgets, different amount of employees, different taxable values. So I do not like the system. And I am encouraged to see that we will consider some type of pay for performance with Commissioner Elzing. I too was an employer at one time, and we did use a bonus thing because there's sometimes people step up and sometimes people just got to do the basics. And I think they need to be rewarded when they step up, but we can't continually reward on that platform because, as he said, it just keeps building. And it, to me, isn't the way that I should be doing counting taxpayer dollars in payroll. So again, I know Ms. Holte's done an outstanding job. Unfortunately, we don't have the pay for performance in line right now, but in good conscience, I can't support that much of an increase. So, but we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Nope, no, sorry.
Opposed?
I had a comment.
Oh,
I
okay.
wanted to comment. before we voted,
okay.
But I was just gonna ask, is there any consideration for some middle ground? Anybody have any consideration for middle ground before we voted? I'm sorry, I kind of stepped into that. I was trying to say, hey.
Yeah. Doesn't look like I got anybody
Okay.
jumping at the gun.
All right.
Okay, those opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, that passes 3-2. All right, and I will look forward to that pay for performance option. And I think, we need to do that in small steps. Maybe we start with administrator and department heads or something, and then work into the system. Because I do know counties have it, and they make it, somehow they make it work. So we can find some samples and work with those counties. And ask your tag counties that you compare yourself with all the other things. Do they use anything? But I know there is counties in the state of Minnesota that use it. All right, committee reports and communications, Commissioner Vagley.
I'd like to request a second to what Mr. Wick had discussed at the start of the meeting. And Mr. Wick, correct me if I'm wrong, you're also a township supervisor from Hart Township. I'd like to request a second to put this for discussion and more information on a future committee of the board.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Secondly, we just passed July 4th, important national holiday. Next year is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I don't think in the past the county has done anything for July 4th, and I wasn't here in 1976, etc. But if anyone is interested, I'm not proposing anything specific. It's just a general feeler, right? Just floating a trial balloon. I'd like to see if we could do something to celebrate our nation's 250th birthday, this democracy experiment. So I'm not sure, and I don't want the county to do all of it, but maybe working with some local partners, public, private, nonprofit, to see if we could do something locally, and maybe more than just an extra big fireworks show, which we all want, me too. But if we could do more to celebrate, and the word was what, sesquicentennial?
Yeah.
I forgot what the 250th
I-
bicentennial.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a
So
long
that's
word.
just a general, I'm
Big word.
floating a trial going to see if people might be interested. If you know of people who might start planning a year out, let me know. And that's it. Thank you.
Can I just add to
Yes,
that?
please.
I have in my office a painting that was done by my brother-in-law, who's from Winona, Alan Sonneman, that was done and won the prize for the 1976
Really?
Bicentennial.
celebration of the, what would have been then? 100, no, not 100, 200 years. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the county did have an art contest, and
Wow.
Oh.
there's
That's a
also
good idea.
another really nice painting in my office of, it's a watercolor of the old Boobs Brewery. So that was, and I have the brochure from that.
Wow, thank you.
Commissioner Vagley. So they
Maybe we
did
can have a
that. and I
kids
think-
coloring contest or something too.
Something like that.
Get little
Yeah, it'd be
kids
great,
realize-
because we do that for the domestic violence group.
We could use some new artwork
So-
in here.
Well, those Jim
colorful.
Highland prints are so nice, though.
Okay,
So, anyway.
all right. So
okay.
yeah, we'll put
Yeah.
that on the radar.
If people know people in Lewiston, Rome, Stone, Stock,
St. Charles,
St.
yeah.
Charles who might also be interested. Make it more than just the city.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Elsing.
Yeah, it'd be kind of neat to see something. I mean, a constitutional republic is something that we live in. And our system of voting is through a democratic process. And I would love to educate more people about that. Hear the term getting associated to the wrong system, and we're a republic. It's kind of crazy. Commissioner Vagley said it right, an experiment. And how long can we keep going? And one of the interesting things, if you listen to our forefathers, is that a constitutional republic can only exist within a moral group of people. And that's the key, is a moral group of people. And as we lose morals, it becomes harder and harder to continue to live in a republic. And it starts to go more towards a democratic system, which is a system of majority rule versus inalienable rights as an individual, regardless of what people say. So, yeah, I think we live in a very special place in the world, arguably probably the best. The comment I wanted to make was what I've been saying every time was the fair. The fair is on, it's going. It officially starts tomorrow, but there are people there. I'm a big fair supporter and 4-H supporter. And in fact, I just had another young boy. He's going to show us his show steer. It's a dairy steer for the first time. And his mom brought him into the office and looking for support to buy his ribbon, and she says, "No, you got to look Josh in the eye." And well, he looked right up at me and shook my hand, and so we asked him questions and stuff. And so, yeah, what a great organization to get kids involved in, and just a fun time. So I encourage everybody to go out multiple times, not just once. Take advantage of the breakfast, take advantage of the fair rides and the events. We're very fortunate to have one of the top fairs in the state, and I'd like to continue to see it go that way. I support it personally. We support it. My company supports it, and so yeah, please stop out.
Attorney Sonneman, did you get covered or is there something?
Oh, I have several things, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to go backwards here. So on June 5th, which is a little bit ago, but I was asked to speak at a press conference in my capacity as the president of the Minnesota County Attorneys Association. And this was a press conference that we had jointly with the Minnesota Sheriff's Association, which was a wonderful, to see all the white shirts coming up. But we spoke at a press conference at the state capitol to ask the legislature to support legislation that would increase bed capacity for mental health beds at the Anoka Regional Treatment Center. And the sheriffs were there and we were there because there were horror stories about people being in jail for 2 years because they were mentally ill, but there was no placement for them. And when we did this together, and several of us spoke, the former head of the Sheriff's Association was very eloquent. He's from Renville County Sheriff, about how we cannot continue to house mentally ill people in our jails. So it was a step forward. I had asked also of our legislative leaders to support that bill, which was the Department of Human Services bill, and it passed. So we've got $75 million additional funding that would add 50 beds. So and we were asked to do that kind of on short notice, and off we went. But and if you want to see the whole press conference, it's on KSTP. You can YouTube it too and stuff like that. But then on June 30th, I went up to the Capitol, the Judicial Center, also in my capacity as the the Minnesota County Attorneys Association president, to meet with the Chief Justice, Natalie Hudson. I brought her greetings from Winona County. And with me was the Nicollet County Attorney, Michelle Zender Fisher, who's the former president of County Attorneys Association, and also Robert Small, who's the executive director and a former judge and former U.S. Attorney's Office assistant attorney. And so we had our opportunity to talk to the Chief Justice about issues that are affecting the justice system from our perspective as county attorneys. And I also mentioned again the issue of mental health because it's huge, as you were saying, both for juveniles, especially for juveniles and adults. So that was last Monday, not yesterday, but last Monday. And finally, I would also like to say something about the county fair. I was in a college 4-H. I've supported the fair every year. Both Commissioner Ward and I always have our names on the back of the t-shirt. And I don't know, Commissioner Elson, you probably joined us this year, maybe. I don't know, but supporting the kids, it's such a great leadership opportunity for those kids to do 4-H. And every fall-ish, my twin sister and I staff the table at the 4-H building at the State Fair for the alumni. So I just wanted to mention that. And one more plug on the fair, we have a joint shared collaborative table with CJCC, the Sheriff's Office, the Alliance for Substance Abuse and Prevention, or ASAP, and all of the other programs that CJCC has. So I'll be up at the fair Thursday afternoon too. Where'd Bob go? So to stop and see the Century Farm presentation, or not the Gene Filowski presentation.
Yeah, okay.
That's it. Thank
All
you.
right, okay. On a little more somber note, unfortunately, with the tragedy of the flooding in Texas, the whole idea of our emergency emergency medical dispatchers, emergency management people, firefighters, everybody, one big appreciative of what we have and what we have the benefit of having. The tragedy there is alerting. And they said something as simple, and I don't have one, I probably should, living out in the country, is just I think it's a NOAA radio system. And I don't know if Ben Klinger isn't I don't know if we could do a group purchase and sell them at a people that should have them. They said if you would have had a simple NOAA system, because it happened similar to our flooding, it was late at night, people were in their campers and in their tents and in their houses sleeping. And just a simple radio system like that, because we've had some terrible storms in our area here too. We've had multiple tornado alerts and everything, but everybody has to be a little more aware of what's going on around them. And so I'm going to maybe make Ms. Holte, see what Ben Klinger can do to bring that awareness to us at a higher level and to be more cognizant of what we should be doing to protect ourselves, our families. Just a very, very tragic sense of loss. So we'll see if he can come up with something for us there, at least, or even some
lessons learned that might apply to us.
Yeah, and even some articles, on the radio, public service articles on the radio or in the newspapers. I see Mr. Rogers is on the line. Maybe we can have some highlights of what people should be doing to protect themselves and be aware. But then, yeah, leave it on the fair. Right, we have some awesome, we have Diane Pulley, Jean Pulowski, Vicki Pearson, the Kennedy family of Lewiston Monument, and Anthony Speltz, all have their days at the fair, which is, they'll get themselves up on the Hall of Fame board, which is pretty awesome. And again, Bob will do that program on Thursday. But an outstanding opportunity to see kids. And don't be afraid to walk up to kids that are sitting there with their animals and say, hey, can you tell me a little bit about your project? And you'll be amazed what you can learn. And that's a public speaking, and like you say, the firm look in the eye and the handshake is good life skills that people need to learn. So don't be afraid to ask them. Commissioner? Yes.
And I want to second your inquiry in terms of the Texas floods. Is there any lessons that would apply to us? And is there anything that is similar or different? I don't want to overgeneralize it, just assume, but yet there are, the issue of flash floods and creeks for sure. Two other things is I want to thank Attorney Sonneman for all that work at the state capitol. The sheriffs to get more bed capacity so the inmates are not sitting in county jails. It doesn't help. It's not good for the jail staff. It's not good for the inmates as well. And this is a question for Ms. Holte and the board. The idea of the celebration of the 250th birthday, should that be a future committee of the board? Just if I start talking to people as a county commissioner, should I ask the board? So could I get a second maybe to put it?
I'll second to discuss it.
And just to see if we could start some kind of community partnership. Again, I'm not asking the county to do all of it or pay for it or whatever, but
Sure.
Yeah, just so it's official. Thank you.
Anything else? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Elzing, second by Commissioner Bagley to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, we're adjourned. Let's take 5. Together, it's 10.1 on our schedule. Discuss, provide directions for use of American Rescue Plan funding at Apple Blossom Park. And that was on page 94. And I think there's more information that was provided in the amended agenda. Good morning, Ross.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, unfortunately, we had some last minute additions we had to add to the packet there. So just kind of recap for you, we at the April meeting when the work on the pavilion project down at Apple Blossom Park was tabled, basically, we were kind of received the kind of the guidance that how should we spend the American Rescue Plan funds. So we met with Laura Pedersen after that, trying to seek clarification as far as what were the limitations for the use of those funds. After that meeting, we did kind of develop a fairly tight interpretation of the allowable uses for that money. And I did kind of summarize that in the memo there. We took that back to our Parks and Environment Committee at the beginning of June. And they had asked for more time to kind of review that because it was a pretty tight turnaround. Because the Parks and Environment Committee only meets every other month, there was not the ability to push this out that far before we take action to accomplish anything. So they did convene a subcommittee, and then he came back with the proposal that I included in the packet here. We did review those aspects, and I've kind of listed in there whether the green shaded items are items that we would consider available options for the board to consider. There may be some fine details that we need to work through, but they would definitely be actions that we could take. And then the conditional options are would be activities that may have other issues or clarifications that we need to gain before we could take action on those. There is a proposal for some off-site work on DNR land. Our ability to ensure that, what our liability is, would need to be kind of addressed. So we just kind of brought this forward and just wanted to see if you had some questions and get some direction on what you're thinking.
So I'm a little bit unclear. So I'm looking at you said the green, it's tan and green. So
There is one that's tan and green because it has two different components to it. One would be okay as far as, I believe it's trail work.
So is that what we're proposing, the items, is that what the group is proposing, the red figures in the cost amount? that tallies up to
Yeah,
47?
the red numbers are what they termed as soft numbers or estimates. So we would need to clarify what the more firm numbers are. Where you see green and yellow mixed, they're like in priority one that they have, we have chemical on site, so we would not need to purchase chemical. We have that on hand, so that is included under the staff notes and comments. On number 11, one of the installation of the benches would be on county property. We see no problem with that. The other one would not be on our property. So that would be something we would need to clarify and receive permission from the DNR.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, just that the ones that are green and say option, we could just do them. The ones that are yellow and say conditional option, there's more stuff that has to be figured out first.
Yep.
Well, what was the amount available? Wasn't it
46.
46.
Okay, 46 and we're at
And
40.
pink, yeah.
Yeah, 47.
I want to add some more information, and Ross, correct me if I'm wrong. So the last time we discussed at the board level, we went back to the Parks and Environment Committee. I'm gonna repeat what you said and then add a little bit of information to it. And then a subgroup was formed, a subcommittee, more of a, not standing committee, but a subgroup to do some more research. 5 people from the Parks Committee, and I was one of them, volunteered to do some more legwork and research. We could only find a time where 4 of us could meet, but we went out to Apple Blossom Park. And one thing that I learned is that I thought that George Howe wanted a pavilion out there, but what I found out is that George Howe did not want it.
Yeah.
So that was a big, that's important information for me. What you see before us, the page, some of the new things that were added in the amended agenda were pages 105 and 106, or as long as, in addition to the maps, which are also very helpful. That small subgroup brought it back to the staff and asked them to look it over. So what you see on page 105 and 106 is what the subgroup brought back to the staff, and the staff looked over and thankfully did some, they analyzed it to see what could be done and what couldn't be done. So this is a proposal that has, like you said, soft numbers. I also want to add one more thing is that this proposal will also save money from the original ideas, because Ann Morris talked with some of the prairie enthusiasts, and they'd be willing to do some of the burns for invasive species for free. They would just need the cost of the chemicals. And Ross, I think you added that we need to have county staff there present for the burns for MCIT liability reasons, but we don't need to pay someone. The prairie enthusiasts would do that. So I'm excited that we could leverage community volunteers who would help save county taxpayer dollars. So, and speaking for myself, this has gone through there's been a lot of discussion and back and forth, and many of these numbers are soft numbers that they need to be verified. And I'll just mention 2 of them, number 10 and number 14. They deal with the installation of a pet waste disposal station and installation of a waste disposal container. Is that I like the idea of providing places for people to put their garbage, but the problem is then the county and the staff is responsible for having to take care of the garbage and the pet waste. So I like everything. The 2, and these are small dollar amounts that I wanted to hear what Ross and Aaron had to say is there enough existing staff time with mowing and other things to take care of waste, or is that adding more county staff time to basically do waste pickup?
The discussion with the Friends of Parks that's been occurring at the Parks and Environment Committee, the question is whether there would be a volunteer in that area that would be able to do that collection and then possibly transport that to like the no dying shop trash disposal. It's not something that I've talked with Highway about yet, but that might be an option.
So the idea-
Otherwise, yes, you're talking about either contracting that out during the summer months, add that to like the mowing service that we're already contracting, have them handle that, or you would have to dedicate staff time down to address those needs.
In comparison, what do we do at Farmers Park? Do we collect trash down there?
Yes, we have contracted trash service down there. And that's why there is a notation under the comments about promoting dumping, because we are having a fairly significant problem at Farmers Park with that.
Yeah. What is the what do we have in the budget for maintenance of Apple Blossom Park? What are we currently spending on maintenance?
We had a number of different actions in the past few years. The current proposal is bringing that down a ways, but mostly it's tree trimming, making sure that we don't have unsafe trees that could be coming down on people, and just doing routine maintenance to the picnic tables. The mowing is the largest annual expense.
Dwayne, you're part of the committee. That's a lot of money for a couple signs.
The idea was to have signs that would be, now granted, this is not a state park, but something like close to, Great River Bluff Park, something that's a smaller state park that I think is kind of an easier comparison to, in terms of like more professional level signage, et cetera. Signage is not cheap if you want to do it, but.
How about, can't we do a QR code and they all take their phones and then have an interactive map or something? I mean, I don't know. Signs, yes, they wear out, they get weathered, they need replacing, and
That's the one increase, otherwise in this proposal, for the most part, that's not true. But when this proposal reflects great reductions in terms of pavilions and other things.
yes.
The one increase was in signage, more professional level signage at the main parking lot, but also on the trails to help people realize what they're looking at and what they're in the presence of. But otherwise, it's pretty close, and these are soft numbers, to what the proposal comes to almost 48,000, and ARPA funds are 46 and 212 or whatever else.
But still, no water or no toilet.
No water, no, well,
The provision would provide there was a discussion about placing a concrete pad for one, so that it would be available for special events, or if the board eventually decides they want to site one, that we would be able to put a handicap accessible toilet there. The Parks and Environment Committee has wants to discuss that further. They didn't know that they really supported that or not.
there was different opinions on porta potties, also wetlands.
Yeah.
And additional work for staff, et cetera. To Ross, correct me with where we are in the process. This is coming back to the county board, as it should. The board could say yes to all, yes to some, no to all, and then it could go back to staff and the committee, or what? Or did you want to make a final decision?
Well, this is just kind of guidance, if we can get some clear guidance, does any of this seem to be what the board is thinking, or are we completely on the wrong track?
I
So,
think- Great. Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I did not get permission first. I think this is great. I support it, and would support the ones that the committee has approved and that are for sure options, and then hear back on the others.
the biggest concern is with this picture here. This is the proposed location. It should be in your packet, for the off-site deck.
That's where there's a bunch of erosion, right?
There's erosion. It's fairly rough trail.
That's the quarry.
No, that's not it's called the Mississippi River
yeah.
Overlook. If you go to the park, it's the main trail straight down, and it goes off-site. Both Aaron and I have some concerns about trying to site something there without any geotechnical. While it seems like solid rock, if we put something there, what is our liability in that? And what happens if something fails?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, so there is a significant erosion there, and if you don't do a deck, is there something you can do to?
Well, it's not even county property, so we can't really do anything to it.
Field.
It's,
Department of Transport.
yeah.
Oh,
the
State.
GIS system listed as DNR, but I think it's actually DOT. So I don't know if there's an error there, but that's one of those areas where we need more investigation. do we even have permission to go on there?
The main concern for that part of the proposal is safety, because
Yeah.
the trail is getting greasy, and it wasn't a big rain, but there was a small rain, and there's just no gravel, it's obviously, it's proceed at your own. We can't protect
Risk,
everyone
yeah.
from themselves from being stupid, but there's no railings, there's no, and again, Great River, Bluff Park, that does a nice job of some basic railings.
Yeah,
et cetera.
pretty basic. So again, I guess so the green are things that you want to do?
Green is, I think staff is saying that that's
We
doable.
see no barriers or limited barriers.
I
So-
have an issue with number 12 there, installation of a pad for bike rack and bike repair station. I mean, it's out in the middle of it's a ways from civilization. I mean, I don't know that I should be spending money for people to fix their bikes. If they want to ride their bikes, they need to take responsibility. And I don't think we want to encourage bike riding up there at this point in time. It's not a bike trail park. So if you have bike fix-it stations,
We,
are they prohibited? Does it say no biking?
we already have the bike fix-it station. So that was purchased with SHIP money. So it'd just be the installation. And it would be a
Get
small,
vandalized too, and they look like.
that's why we want to anchor it in,
Spending $1,000 to fix a bike, but you can't get a drink and you can't go to the bathroom. I guess my priority is much different for a park.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
as a person who does go on longer bike rides, I totally see the point of people take their basic stuff with them to change a tire, but if there's more of a mechanical and your cassette comes loose and has to be tightened, it would be
You
really
have your
nice.
cell phone and you call your neighbor.
It would be really nice to have that.
I don't know if those stations provide that, but again, it's $1,000 that, and again, you're talking about covered benches. I can see a bench, but it seemed like the covered one went really, did I read that? It was.
I thought this proposal did away with the covered
Did it?
benches.
Okay, I read about benches.
I referenced that because the original ARPA proposal was providing shade and shelter for people. So we kind of left that in there as the original, but it could also definitely interfere with the landscape view. So.
And the four of us, I think this is just four people. I don't want to speak for the whole committee. It was just four people, is that they thought that the covered benches were not, where that could be let go.
Yeah, okay.
So one proposal is to have it go back to staff and have it go back to the committee and allow staff more time to figure out what's doable and just ask
Within the dollar.
amounts. So there's no new, it's just meeting the existing ARPA funds.
Okay.
Would that be enough direction?
Um,
And obviously, there's a lot of things you need to figure out.
yeah,
like
we need to try to,
DNR.
because the larger ticket items have offsite components.
Yeah.
So, but that's where we did note in there that if we get down the road and we don't expend these funds, the funding doesn't have to be refunded. It just goes to offset other county expenses. So that was
I have no burning desire that I have to spend the money. And my preference would be keep it more, I guess the term, keep the whole park more primitive than
That's the
city
point.
park.
Yeah, this is definitely not a city park.
Yeah.
It's more minimalist. And
Yes.
It's
yeah.
actually, and what this subgroup did was move away from the pavilion, move away from a lot of stuff, and also greatly reduce the price tag as
Yeah.
well. So,
And of course, we probably have 2 brand new houses on the other side of the road in that neighborhood.
yep,
Um,
and
Yeah.
more on the way, possibly. Yeah. But the
okay.
idea is not to have it be a city park.
Okay, all right.
So what do we
Okay.
decide?
The staff is going to refine the,
And work
The
with them,
dollars
work
within the budget?
existing
Yeah.
ARPA funds. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
okay, all right.
Okay, Ross.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you
Right.
for all your work on
Thank you.
that.
Okay,
I got
thank you. Yeah.
I got to say something on the microphone. Hopefully Heidi or Chad are listening, but can you send Sam back up? He got my email on my phone to work and now on my computer it doesn't. So we just flipped him. It
Will
seems-
do.
So.
We'll get him up there. Thanks.
Now moving into the working session, discuss outside agency 2026
So,
budget.
do we need to adjourn the committee of the board or no?
No, it's just,
Yeah, okay.
we don't. use it.
Right,
One thing I wanted to bring up on the
Yeah.
committee of the board, did we ever get a response to the, back in April, I think you had brought up,
Thank you, Ross.
Oh, thank you.
the,
Sorry.
public data request guideline
The public data reform policy.
policy, yeah.
Yeah.
Did we ever,
There were some emails from Maria.
Yeah.
Right.
Chad, I'm sorry, Josh is asking about the data request, and I mentioned that you shared some summaries. by email.
Yeah.
But we were looking at creating a policy, weren't we, with that?
And I know Steve Krantz sent out, yeah, a couple very detailed, so is that
Yeah.
considered the
The policy?
policy?
We never did revisit it.
Yes, we do have a data request policy,
Okay.
both for members of the public as well as non, I guess. I don't know how else to reword that, but there's two separate policies.
Yeah.
I can resend them out if you'd like.
Right.
Yeah, why don't you, and then we'll.
Okay.
Yeah, because we never really did revisit. You brought
No.
it, you brought the.
Yeah, we brought it up and then Steve Krantz provided that, and I guess I have constituents that are much more knowledgeable of the
Yeah.
process than myself. And, yeah, send out the policies again and then we'll
Okay.
get some
I think we
feedback.
should review it. We haven't had a committee of the board for
No,
several months, so.
okay. All right, put that back on. Okay, the sheet that just got handed to us. What is this, a budget?
Yeah, it's,
Oh.
so it's not in the packet, but I'll
Oh.
make sure that Heidi gets it into the packet before it's produced. It's just something I kind of wanted to walk you through. The calendar or the sequence of events for the budget, for the 2026 budget. And we're sort of, I don't know, a third of the way through this now, calendar wise, and also steps. So started with budget instructions that we gave to departments and outside agencies. We did that in April and May. Asking them to complete their budgets, preliminary proposed budgets. And at the same time, we asked the outside agencies to submit their budgets as well. And so that's all been pretty much done now. Then I took the budgets that departments prepared. These were Excel spreadsheets and put them into IFS, our financial system. So it's all loaded in for the 2026 proposed budget. Then the next step is, and this is the one we're in the middle of right now, is reviewing the budgets with the departments to make sure we got it all loaded properly. And that sort of thing, just walking it through. We've also asked them to submit their FTE requests and capital requests. And we've received all that. Now we're sitting at the working session. So one thing that the county administrator Holte and I sort of observed, and maybe you did as well, we had a lot of working sessions, not a lot, but we had several working sessions, and it seemed like in some cases we were plowing the same ground kind of again and again. So we're gonna take a little bit of a different approach this time, which is to knock off some of these things. And so put them to bed, not talk about them again, and just make it part of the budget. And so that's kind of what we're gonna do here with the outside agency request. So I just, moving through this calendar, want a little bit, just to kind of give you a sense of what's coming. And this, we may not follow this exactly, but maybe one working session to review the preliminary budget as it stands, once I get it all done, completed and built, make sure that the numbers look right. And then we can talk about the FTE and capital requests by themselves. Another working session, something that Administrator Holte and I have also talked about is the way we approach maintenance for buildings and equipment is sort of what I would say piecemeal. What I want to do is to get a better sense of what the maintenance needs of the county are, is to, we spend a lot of time inventorying our stuff. And I want to get a sense of what all that is, what's the useful life of those things, what's the replacement value, and then start to put together a little more cohesive approach to a maintenance budget rather than piecemeal is the way it's done now. And then run through that with with the board in a working session. And then, of course, in 30 September, state law requires us to submit preliminary levy by 30 September. So on the 23rd is when we will have an actual board meeting and talk about the preliminary levy, if we remember where we were at last year with that.
Excuse me, Chuck, we need to actually have them set it prior to. So it has to be set by the 15th of September.
Oh, it has to be set.
Statutorily.
Okay,
Statutorily.
all right. So I didn't see that part in the.
No worries.
So it won't be the 23rd. It'll be the board meeting prior to that one, so it'd be the
First
9th.
meeting in September.
Yes. And then, another thing that I want us to kind of get in the habit of doing is looking at our 5-year financial situation. And I see here, added 2 I's to financial, and I'll make sure that I correct that.
You got two sides on it.
Southern drawn there.
Yes.
French spelling.
And so that's really looking at, the operating budgets, building in some inflationary growth to them. We know we have growth to salaries and fringes. We know we have growth to medical insurance, big growth. And then, just sort of what kind of levy do we need to substantiate that or to support that growth? And then we can start making decisions about where we want things to be and how do we suppress the cost so that we keep to a levy limit or whatever that everybody agrees on. And then, of course, our capital needs. We've talked a lot about the LEC. I think we have maybe a little more clarity on what's going on at the state too. So maybe now is the time to talk about that and build that in, whatever we want that to be. So that'll be a working session. It's not going to be just here it is, and it's going to be more like, here's a draft, and let's continue to work through this until we get it to a point that we're satisfied with it. And then in November, one more review of the budget prior to the final approval in December. So that's the calendar. And I'll kind of take you through a few things that we are new for 2026. In the past, we used this software package called OpenGov to build the budget, and then we jammed it into IFS. And the feedback I got from everybody was that step using OpenGov was unnecessary. And nobody ever really liked the software. They only use it once a year. Nobody ever got good at it, and we really couldn't see any value to it. So I skipped it entirely. We're using Excel this year.
Excel is more powerful than you think.
Oh,
We used to use it
People,
all the time.
people
for
use
budget.
literally 1/100th of what Excel's capability is. We've been using it more and more in conjunction. We're updating our softwares with this merger I'm doing, and it's unbelievable what Excel can do.
yes.
But wasn't OpenGov supposed to be an avenue for the public to see so will that change? The public won't have access to as much information?
Well, all the things that we subscribe to from OpenGov is about $100,000 a year for the subscriptions. There's the financial transparency, which is the one you're referring to.
Uh-huh.
There's the budget module.
There's the integration. So
Ross uses it for land management, I believe,
Permits.
permitting. And then there's maybe a fourth one there. The one that I'm talking about, the budgeting module, is about 39,000, and I'm gonna,
But it's not the transparency one.
Okay, it's not
Yes.
as transparent.
it's the one
And-
to integrate into the other, whatever.
Right, we
Yes.
hit IFS and we loaded into
That's the
OpenGov.
integration.
What's IFS?
it's our financial system, integrated financial system, I think.
Okay.
Most counties use it, at least
Yeah.
the smaller
Well,
ones.
I got a few people that like to keep tabs on us, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's important that whatever we have for the public's view.
Use that several times a year.
And,
Yeah, we just need to make sure the interface maintains.
Okay.
and I want to also, I mean, maybe we can separately talk about that, but I'd like to look at a way, if there's a way that I can produce some stuff and put it in there for financial transparency, and I can get rid of that subscription too, to that module and save some more money.
The nice
Talk
thing
to
about-
some of your, I'm sorry.
The nice thing about doing the Excel thing is that it's easily transitional, meaning that if you taken any computer courses, you know Excel. When you get into some of these other programs, you got to start from scratch.
Yes.
And that is, if we can get into a more commonplace software system that, hey, somebody leaves, the next person can come in and at least have the basics of what's going on. That's also something that I've seen over the years, having managed multiple things in companies, that's a benefit.
I think so. I mean, I work for United Health Group. 500 billion a year in revenue, and it's driven by Excel.
Yeah. Like I said, it is so
Crazy.
underutilized.
But,
Yep.
but don't hesitate to reach out to some other counties and see what they're using and what works for them. Some,
Yeah, I mean, OpenGov, that financial transparency thing, what it comes up with is not very helpful. And I do fool around every time because I want to see expenses by department. And then there are times when I want to see revenue so that I can see what is, like how much of HHS actually came from government or intergovernmental transfer, that kind of thing. And those things you have to kind of, every time, like, yeah, how in the heck did I, because that isn't how it necessarily
Not
comes.
user friendly.
No, there would be like some kind of calculated reports that I think would be more helpful for people.
And I mean, I haven't really probed this with the board. I mean, as far as the monthly financial reporting that I've been giving to the board, it's on consent, so, but I am gonna give you a mid-year presentation, so where are we at through the June close? And maybe I can get some more feedback, but I was thinking of just taking that and putting in the financial transparency section, adding some stuff that's not there now, like debts, what's our debt schedules and what do they look like and when's that all gonna get paid off? I can load the annual budget in there. And I know that a lot of it is numbers driven that I give you, because I know you're sophisticated consumers, but there may be some other things that we can do that's a little simpler, a little easier to look at. And again, I'm just trying to figure out ways to reduce costs where we can and yet not hamper the quality of what people are seeing.
Okay.
So,
One of the things that you talk, and we're always criticized that when you're looking forward is our deferred maintenance. We always get caught, like right now with the LEC. Well, you didn't do the maintenance on it. I said, you know what? Nobody ever asked for us to fix the drains in the floor of the garage. I mean, so we need to look at all these buildings, what we need to do to keep them maintained, because we get caught with big bills because we didn't do something along the way.
absolutely, and that's when I talk about in new for 26, the creation of a maintenance budget. And now that would imply, I'm dropping a big, huge cost into the budget that doesn't exist now. And that's not the goal. But the goal is to say, here's what we own and here's, when it all deteriorates and here's sort of the replacement or the maintenance or the fixing that we have to do. And I know Dave Kramer does a lot of that with the highway budget, of course. But I'm talking more about our buildings and like the sheriff and all the things that he owns and has to maintain. And we see it pop up sort of randomly in the capital budget for tasers or radios or antennas and things like that. That's the stuff I'm talking about.
But those are, having done many, many of those plans in my life, you put it all on a piece of paper and then you prioritize it. So yeah, it's a big number at first, but it's just like anything else. You go, okay, what needs to happen now, later, deferred, 5-year, 10-year. And then it works itself out. But at least we know what we have and we know what the expectation is. So, and sometimes you switch those numbers around.
Yep.
Sometimes you don't do anything and you say, well, we got to kick the can down the road, right? So, but to have a plan is where it starts. So I like the concept, and I think that should be through every part of the government, all the way through. So, and maybe Dave has an outline for that we could, potentially
Good
look
idea.
at and bring in.
And,
But today you wanted to talk about outside agency. requests.
yes, and I'll shut up and
No,
get to
no,
it.
it's not you, it's all of us. I'm just wondering if,
Yes.
yep.
And the last thing here is a budget book. So Jesse Palbicki on my team and I we're going to tackle this again, doing it inexpensively. Use Adobe Pro, nothing too crazy. Nothing, more than that thick. But it's going to have some history in it. It's going to have the budget. It's going to have department profiles. It's going to have debt schedule. It's going to have, some other things, maybe an intro from yourself as the chair. That's what I'm thinking. And we can publish a few, but I think primarily it would just sit on the web, on our website.
Yep.
But it might be something that you could have yourselves to take to meetings and stuff like that.
Because I give presentations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I would encourage you to pick out a handful of counties. You always like to compare us to other counties, and just see what they're doing. Go on their website and see what they're providing. Some big counties, small counties, and then again, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you got a question about something, you can always run something through AMC and say, hey, how many counties use this and what, and they'll do some basic homework. How many counties use this particular software and are they happy with it, type of thing. They're very capable of polling you know, multiple. And, you know, you get some that respond and some that don't, but
Yeah, and
it's
that's-
a good tool.
That's kind of some of the feedback we got on OpenGov was sort of
Yeah.
like, we used to use it and then we quit because it was
Right.
too hard.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so I'm gonna just bring you to this now.
Yep.
So
Why are
this-
two in orange?
This is the outside agency requests. So the ones that are in orange, so if you go to the far right column, 26 agency requests. The two that are in orange, we have not formally received. I've been in contact with both of
yeah.
them. And, you know, I just said, hey, I'm using, like, for the Humane Society,
Okay.
I think his name's Richmond.
Rich McClure.
Yes. And I said, I'm gonna use 20,000 for now, then I didn't hear anything back, but I'm sure I will, but, and then I'm working with Tom Anderson on the Veterans Memorial one, that's $90 per, I think there's 9 of them that get flag money, I think, for Memorial Day. So,
But isn't it, well, if we go down the list, then isn't Humane Society, isn't that a contract? Don't we get charged per animal or something? Isn't that more of a contract or we automatically give them 20,000?
We automatically give 20.
I thought we had a
Isn't
Am I-
that Chuck?
yeah.
confused?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
I think you're referencing the,
Sheriff?
yeah, there's a contract for,
Okay, so we're
Humane.
giving them 20,000 just to be nice, and then we're also getting billed when, okay. And the same way, the question there, then Project Fine 45, is that again, we're under contract for interpretive services and everything, but the 45 is just because we're nice?
No,
Is that the contract for interpretive services?
Mhm.
That is a contract.
yeah, it's my
Okay.
understanding if we actually did the hourly, they'd get more than that.
Well, but we are billed hourly for some things.
for some things.
Yeah, some things we're still
Related to
billed
code.
hourly.
Isn't the sheriff's use of Humane Society included in the 20,000, or is that separate?
I don't know off top, oh, actually,
Um.
So what's the best way for us to tackle this? Did you guys have an idea?
Well, I would just say, given all of the uncertainty we have with the budget and since we're at the end of the pipe, from federal decisions and state decisions, and we've got a lot of things to figure out in that regard yet, I would say, you know, what we're looking for today is obviously not a vote, but some smoke signals or guidance on where to sit. I mean, my recommendation would you to be, keep these things flat to prior year or flat or down is what I would say.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, once again, this year I'm going to advocate two things for the senior advocacy services, which we are not paying the share that the city would like us to. And so it ends up that they are subsidizing services for people who don't live inside the city of Winona. And I'm not saying that we should go from the full 92, but I would like to increase because I have been trying for a few years to get them up a little higher. I think especially when rules are going to be changing, that it is important for folks who can go there and get advice from the advocates. The story that I'll share is that I have someone who is a senior, my age, and who lives in my district and who lives on a pretty meager Social Security income and owns a house and didn't know that he could apply for a property tax refund and was able to get help from the senior advocates to do that and to actually get a refund that has made his life a lot easier because his escrow payment went up. So they help with a lot of services in terms of filling out paperwork for folks that are related to programs that the county administers, programs that the county's involved in. So I'd love to see us, I don't know, put another 10,000 towards them, maybe get them up to 60, even if we aren't up there to the full amount. The other thing is that I think that our soil water conservation district is super important, and I would support giving them the amount that they've asked for. This year, they're asking for 179,000, and I'd support that as well.
But we have no breakdown of these asks. You know, why are they asking for the increases? I just have this sheet with the totals and such. So I have a question. Actually, the Southeast Minnesota Emergency Medical Services, that 5,000. I don't even know if it should be on here. That should be in the sheriff's budget or emergency manager's budget, because that, it's not really the same as some of these other things, in my opinion. So, I mean, it can stay here, but it's not really an optional thing.
Can
Yeah.
you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, that's the group that's, was it like 10 or 11 counties in Southeast Minnesota that provides emergency medical training for all our first responders, all the volunteer agencies in a medical, to keep our ambulance and our volunteer medical services throughout this whole Southeast Minnesota, up to speed to be. So it's not just because we're nice, it's because it's a needed medical services environment, and they were low on. It was primarily started way back when they did seatbelt, and the funding source was seatbelt tickets. Well, we've taught people well, most everybody wears their seatbelt, and the number of dollars coming in for seatbelt violations is been greatly reduced. But the requirement, because a volunteer emergency medical service person has to have the same training as a highly paid professional. And so that's the group that provides the training. And so when that seatbelt money kept going down, they said, well, every county, probably should chip in some to keep their people, safe. And it should come out of, like, I don't know, most of the time it's a sheriff's budget.
It's in Ben's budget now,
Or
but
emergency, yeah.
he was the one that said he doesn't benefit from any of it, so
He does. I
I
mean,
don't think he understands what services it's providing.
okay.
And
but-
that's why I was asking for
Okay.
clarification, so we can go back to Ben
Yeah.
and help him understand.
I mean,
why
I
it's
mean,
in
if
his
we don't
budget.
have all the volunteer.
Probably one of the
emergency-
largest struggles in all of the rural communities right now is especially not so much in the fire department, but it's definitely I was a former EMT for Lewiston. I went through all the national and state certifications. It's a lot of work. That was back in late 90s, early 2000s. And it is I don't know if anybody else has done it,
No.
but it's an insane amount of work.
Yeah.
And to probably arguably the hardest test I've ever taken in my life. And I mean, to get people to do this is insane. And when I was a mayor of Altura, it got desperate. And at one of the meetings, I had to say, guys, this is the message that needs to go on the piece of paper. Your mom, your dad, your brother, your grandpa will die if we don't find volunteers. Somehow get that message on a piece of paper.
Well, no.
That's really where it has to go. And that's where this is at.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
There was some legislation, I don't know if it got passed. They were trying to change the funding formula for
I hope
EMS.
they do because
That's
it's,
a-
Went through.
I don't think
did
it did.
either, but
I mean, they were trying to, a big thing is when you go out on a medical call, you can't even get reimbursed for, the Band-Aids and the,
No.
heaven forbid, all the stuff you use. So,
it's definitely
yeah.
something
But
that
I,
should be
it's
on the
kind of
radar.
not in the same category.
So, Commissioner Moore, would you like to see, would you be open to seeing a presentation about what the benefit of the 5,000 is?
We're at a little bit of a transition in the leadership of that group.
Mhm.
Don Hauge had a terrible medical, and I can check. The person who's running it, I don't know if he's just still interim, to tell you the truth, but yeah, we could.
Maybe not, if not a presentation, just a summary.
Yeah.
In summary, be
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
and I've got that already. Jeff Peterson gave me something. I can circulate that.
Okay. Yeah.
Excellent, okay.
So I think
All right.
I can see this conversation taking 12 hours.
Yeah.
And what you're
I have a
looking for right
commitment
now is just like first reactions. Is that fair to say? Or do you want us to do deeper dives?
I'd like maybe something slightly deeper than that, so I can just sort of plug in a number and say that's more or less done, unless you want to make a motion later on when you can,
Like what Chris started, just go around the table and just have people give their first reaction.
or we just focus on the ones where they're asking for more than last year. There's only about 5 of them.
I just,
like-
we're gonna go a different direction.
Yeah. we
Exactly.
need some time. I guess I'll get my opinion if you want. I think if something goes up, something else needs to go down.
Well, because 816,000 is what, almost 3.5% of a levy.
So to make one happy, we got to figure out who we want to discipline.
Anything else?
Nope.
I'm gonna go through a couple of things real quickly. So double checking, volunteer services actually requested a lower amount.
Yeah, they did.
They did. I'm not sure why.
Okay. Cellco, do we have discretion over that, or is that?
We do.
There's a formula at the state, but I think we're always above it.
Yeah, we
Okay.
are.
So, I'm gonna just give you my first reaction is speaking for myself only, because of what the federal budget, what the people at the federal level have done. Even though some of it now won't go into effect until 26, is that correct?
Yeah.
We
Right,
need
but
to
it's
figure
still
out.
coming.
Yeah.
But in what the state level, which we haven't figured yet, don't know what they're going to do. I'm speaking for myself only. The buck is being passed to the local level. People are need to brace themselves for, because
Mhm.
people have passed the buck. I'm comfortable with a larger than normal increase. I wish it wasn't that way, but because of what happened in DC, the big beautiful bill for billionaires, and what's going to happen at the state level, they'll probably also pass the buck is, so that's speaking for myself only. I'm also comfortable with supporting the increase for Soil and Water Conservation District. It's just an investment. Not doing some of these things just means you pay more money later on or down the road. I'm also open to some kind of increase for the senior citizen advocate, because the goal is to keep people in their homes longer and improve the quality of life. That saves everybody money the longer people can stay in their homes. So I would be open to some kind of level of increase for that. I've said the Smith, I've said this last year, so it's not just because he came today and presented. I'm also comfortable with that $300 increase for Smith, in terms of what they do for entrepreneurs and other community needs. So I'm speaking for myself only. I'm comfortable with the soil and water conservation request. I'm comfortable with Smith, some amount for senior citizen. Cellco, that's what, an $8,000 increase? Libraries do so much more than books. For a lot of people, it's almost human services. I'm also comfortable with some kind of increase, and I do not feel a need to decrease in other places. So that's just speaking for myself. Marcia, Greg? Sorry.
Why is the
No, I go along
Historical
with-
Society asking for so much more? Did they get,
Unless someone brings it up, let's not even discuss it. Like
well, why are they asking for so much more?
Unless someone-
I'm bringing it up. Why are,
Unless someone wants to support it, let's not even discuss it. Like, I don't want to support that request.
so I guess I'm confused. You're saying hold it?
Yes.
At the
unless
2025?
We want to discuss it, let's just keep it at the.
Well, soil and water, I'm not sure why they're asking for more money, because there's all kinds of money coming through the legacy funds and all the one watershed, one plan. So again, it's not huge, but why are they asking for more? Because there is a lot of opportunities to earn more money through all those other grants and funds and everything.
Maybe
Big
Commissioner Austin
brothers,
can tell us.
big brothers, big sisters, I really have issues with. One of my constituents quizzed them, and I think they're down to servicing 6 kids. Again, do we have any report, what they're doing in Winona County?
I know for a fact there's a room full at the high school every now and then.
Well, I had a constituent
Room means
check with
15.
somebody,
Good.
and I can verify that. Senior Citizen Advocacy Center, that's too significant an increase. I mean, yes and no. Volunteer services, well, they built a new building, which is amazing, and they're charging more for their clothing, so maybe they're making more money. I guess the Advocacy Center, I have some questions of what we really are doing there. The other ones are small. Again, the whole philosophy that this is that philanthropic giving of taking from property taxpayers to fund somebody else's real good organization is rubs wrong with me. In the libraries, I would not support any type of increase like that. I mean, I'm sorry. Everybody's got to tighten their belt. Taxpayers are going to have to tighten considerably. Yes, other levels of government are screwing us over, but I can't be part of the screw of my local, property taxpayer. There's more than Chris Myers, one citizen that needs help out there, and property taxes aren't optional.
Commissioner Olson?
I would support some increase in the senior advocate. I know that we've been underfunding that position, and that does serve the rural residents who apparently is more than Chris Myers, one person. So I would support some level of increase there, maybe the 10K that Chris mentioned. And I would support soil and water, however, I'd like to know what that particular increase is. For everything else, I would support holding flat.
You have what you need?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Do you want to go deeper than that, or is that enough for now?
Nope, that's good.
All right. Everybody's got other commitments. Are we done? Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.